It's a new year, so we might as well fuck it up now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hate Bit Podcast. We got a great show for you today, at least we hope we do. Joining me, as always, you know the guy, a golf pro for the new age, Alpha Omegason.
Bring out your dead. Clang, clang. I don't have a bell sound, so you're just going to have to work with me. Bring out your dead. Yes, this 2016, please. I got this cart with me. Please, just toss them all in. Bring out your dead, folks.
And on our other side, the man, the myth, world-renowned lecturer and cosmetic spokesperson, Mr. Razor Fist.
I'm not quite dead.
Shut up, you.
You'll be stone dead in a moment.
Welcome to our program. Welcome to the single most cost-effective podcast on planet Earth, the Hate Bit Podcast. I want to remind each and every one of you to check us all out. There's information down below. Make sure and give us a sub right here on YouTube. And don't forget to check us out on your Twitter, on your Instagram, all that stuff, because, you know, you really want to see what Razor Fist looks like in color. You know you do. So do that. And also, if you have questions, comments, commentary of any kind, please drop us a line at hatebitpodcast@gmail.com. Now, welcome to 2017. And looking back, we want to say rest in peace to fucking everybody. We have been gone for a little under 2 weeks, and the whole fucking planet died.
Yeah.
For more on the matter, and the guy that I think is responsible, Mr. Razor Fist, who died?
Actually, let's go ahead and save a lot of time and mention who didn't die. You, me, Alpha, and I think there was a garbage man down the street who may not have died. Everyone else is dead. If they were a living, breathing being at the beginning of 2016, it's safe to assume they're dead. Actually, you should probably be phoning loved ones right now. It's probably what should be happening right now.
I'd like to think.
No, let's see here. Fucking Bowie kicked it. Fucking George Kennedy kicked it. Carrie
Muhammad
Fisher
Ali
kicked it. Carrie Fisher's mom kicked it. Carrie Fisher's mailman kicked it. Fucking
Fidel Castro died.
If you were in the same room as someone in the Carrie Fisher family, actually, you're probably your time is about up.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, who else died? Goddamn. Everyone. China died.
Everybody who ever saw Star Wars died.
Yeah. Inside. China kicked it. Fuck. I mean, who didn't eat shit this year?
Well, so far, public enemy number one, Mr. Bill Cosby, is still with us.
I was going to say Betty White is still hanging in there, as is Stan Lee. So that's
that's the person who should be saying, "I'm not quite dead," and we should reply, "No, you'll be stone dead in a moment."
Well, let's see. We had Gene Wilder.
Oh,
he passed away. Arnold Palmer, which I mean that again
for a golf pro like Alpha Omega Sin is a real Greek tragedy.
George Michael, he died.
Of course,
Ice-T will never be the same again.
Well, you know, it's weird because George Michael was on the 25th, Carrie Fisher was on 27th, and then Debbie Reynolds was on 28th. I mean, there was literally no rest, like within that time frame. They're like,
because the truth of the matter was, Debbie Reynolds said, "I'll be goddamned if I'm going to be outdone by George Michael and my kid."
I don't think there's anyone there, folks. It's 2017, and there are no celebrities left. I'm just throwing that out there. You're officially out of celebrities.
Well, see, they started going beyond that because we didn't have just celebrities. We also had the likes of Fidel Castro and Janet Reno, both.
Well, not to mention, we also lost, and I say we like I had anything to do with it, but Alan Thicke from TV's Growing Pains. And that was the first time I'd ever saw anyone say anything nice about Alan Thicke on television. Isn't it interesting how you go from Canadian and bland to a fucking North American hero just by having a collapsed aorta?
I know, right? And I mean, think about it. Prior to that, he was just the guy whose wife shit out Robin Thicke, right? So who really? You're not going to be throwing the asshole a parade at that point.
Well, but not only that,
what are you really into the Just for Men gel commercials or something? Like, no, fucking bullshit.
Well, you know, he was also that guy that if you had a game show that no one wanted to be on, Alan Thicke would probably come and help you.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure Alan Thicke was on at least 1/4 of all the shows on Game Show Network.
Dude, Alan Thicke was the PAX Network. You ever watch the PAX Network? He was on every show. I saw scripted dramas where he played every character. He was like,
dude. So basically,
one-man show. Alan Thicke. I hardly knew me.
He looked at everything Eddie Murphy was doing after his career started taking a nosedive and was like, I can do that, except for on a much smaller budget.
I'm pretty sure when you look at also, you know, the IRS receipts, that I think Alan Thicke did a little bit better than Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Just a scotch.
It still makes me sad because, I mean, since we're talking about deaths and we're talking about Eddie Murphy and we could just talk about his career, I always remember him all throughout the 80s and then somewhat sprinkle in maybe like 1990 to 90, maybe 3. So that's a safe area. God damn, was he a
You mean the same era that had Boomerang, a Vampire in Brooklyn, and The Distinguished Gentleman?
Vampire in Brooklyn was not all that bad.
I was surprised when I found out that was supposed to be a comedy. That shocked the hell out of me.
I think all of Eddie Murphy's powers were in those leather gloves he wore on stage. Because as soon as he lost those, man, it was done. That was it.
Look, it was all in the red leather outfit.
It's true.
It was that entire outfit, and that, like, it was technically like a containment suit. So he was kind of like Captain Atom or some shit. And like, if as soon as that shit came off, just his power would go everywhere. And then like Chris Rock got a job, and some other fucking people, which, you know, they were just like, can we be just like him? No,
did you see the one after that where he had the blue outfit? He looked like a giant Chris Boris testicle. He was pretty funny on that one. I thought that was an okay special.
It was. The problem was that it was supposed to follow suit to arguably one of the best stand-up comedies ever. And seeing them like, oh man, that hurts. I mean, I still like it. People dog the shit out of it because it's not as good. But I'm like, sometimes you peak. It happens.
That's true.
But still, Prince and David Bowie.
Oh my God! Well, I mentioned Bowie, but yeah, Prince. How could I forget Prince? Jesus.
And
Christ.
the Lemmy. You know, he left the end of 2015.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. People keep throwing Lemmy in there.
See, but that's the thing. That's how much it hurts.
That is. You know what? Lemmy actually counts from this point forward. That's just Lemmy.
Yeah, every year at the Grammys, Lemmy's gone.
We just like to take a moment of silence for Lemmy.
Well, you know, because they say like now we can do whatever we want.
Yeah. We'll take a moment of silence for Lemmy and then half a moment of silence for his mole. That's how it'll work.
I don't know. The mole was very important.
The only thing I wanted to see is during his funeral, I just wish that they showed like one gigantic stadium and it was nothing but all the bitches that he fucked.
No shit.
Because
you couldn't find a stadium big enough, that motherfucker.
Jesus. No, let's set the record straight right here, right now. There's a lot of rock stars out there who have fucked more women than you have ever jacked off to on the internet. But Lemmy managed to fuck. Lemmy fucked twice as many.
He did.
Just remember that, and he did it while downing like double fisting 2 things of fucking Jack Daniels and was just railing bitches. Because and then after that he had his fucking bass with him and then played that too. Because I mean, it's what the fuck else?
If you have a female relative, just mention Lemmy sometime. She'll get really quiet and awkward. And be like, well, there was that one summer.
Keep in mind, a couple of the deaths that happened this year, the women, were probably because Lemmy wasn't around to fuck them and resuscitate them with his magnum opus that he had in his fucking pants. So
and Lemmy did all that. Lemmy did a lot of that fucking when he had diabetes and his dick didn't work right. He was still like, fuck that shit.
It totally did. I'd like to think that even the head of his dick was the Motorhead symbol. It makes sense to me. Like that's where they got the idea from. It just makes sense. And like one of the people that died this year, Florence Henderson. That was a big fucking bummer. I
Oh.
like to think that, like, I want to imagine that she totally banged Lemmy too, but I want to imagine her on the set of the Brady Bunch, and it makes so much more sense.
The only reason I'm okay with Lemmy dying is I know now there's this perpetual Austin Powers 3 routine going on in heaven where God meets Lemmy and is like, "Oh, nice to mow you. Oh, nice to meet you, Mo. I mean, Mo."
It's was it? Didn't they end up? Was it
I don't
his
know, man. It's
funeral
gonna be
in?
interesting when Lemmy meets Margaret Thatcher. I just want to.
Wasn't his funeral in January?
Yeah, because I think he died right after Christmas. So it's how quick can you get a funeral together?
I think that's why a lot of people had lumped it in, is because it was at such the tail end of December, and then to start off the year, it's like Lemmy passed. That's how everybody rang.
That's true. And that had more paparazzi than a fucking British royal wedding.
Yeah.
It was just everything.
You had a lot of big names there, even though Motorhead was never like huge. You had Dave Grohl there, and you had Triple H there, and you had like bigger kind of people who.
You notice all people that were in the Lemmy movie from earlier in the year.
It's true.
Well, it does say
that was a very
though.
complex promotional marketing scheme. That's what that was. Lemmy's like, I'll get your movie off the ground. I'll die, and then he died, and then the movie was huge.
You know what? If you're gonna time it right.
Right,
dude. Having this list in front of me, this shit's just ridiculous. Like between November and December, there was so many people kicking the bucket, and the fact that it's worse because like Carrie Fisher technically was still kind of young.
Yeah,
when you think about it, like she was in her early 50s.
She hit the nose candy pretty fucking hard.
Yeah,
and that's probably what that's about.
I don't think this was her first heart attack either.
Yeah,
dude, it's such a bummer though, because like going and seeing episode 7 in theaters and shit, and I was so pumped for it, and then getting to see her like on the big screen and shit, which granted, like she's old now.
It was watching a computer game.
Oh no!
No! You're talking about Force Awakens.
Yeah. Like, right. I was all excited, but I still haven't seen the new one. So that's.
Have you seen her talk about that movie? Like about being in that movie? She was the one to say this. I don't even get to make this joke. She was like, it was a really cool reunion, except that we both looked kind of melted.
Well, that's what happened.
Not mine.
That's that I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of liked her, was like outside of like her acting and shit.
Far and away, she was the most interesting of the principal cast. Like when you had her in an interview or whatever, she was way more interesting than that jag-off Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford. Well, Mark Hamill's a pretty good interview, actually. But Harrison Ford's pretty funny.
But imagine if Mark Hamill did cocaine.
Yes.
Now, that would be...
Actually, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. That was pretty much her. But she had a really wry, incisive wit. I just always dug Carrie Fisher, and she wasn't in nearly enough stuff, which is you can kind of say about most of the Star Wars cast that isn't Harrison Ford.
I also want to say that rye is another way of saying partially bitter.
Yeah,
and you try being Debbie Reynolds' kid and not developing some sort of a complex.
Well, her mom was here's the kind of fucked up thing. Her mom introduced her to drugs.
Oh yeah.
So we kind of
was a different time
for Carrie's early death a little bit. But
you can't say that's a different time. I've definitely been to houses where they had like fresh lines on a shitty little fucking compact mirror in the living room, and then the playpen is literally 4 feet away.
Well, I'm not saying I haven't either, because I have. I'm just apparently not as many as you have.
No, it's.
I consider the ones I saw. I consider an exception to the rule. Apparently, over in Pennsylvania, things ain't so hot.
Well, look, in San Diego, I think the drug of choice generally comes rolled in a piece of paper. That's generally
called tortas.
Yeah, that's San Diego.
we have more people right now kicking the bucket currently of heroin. So there's that. It's like at some alarming high. There's no pun intended, but there's been like entire areas where there was like multitudes of people all within the same exact building, all overdosing, same exact day, just like mountains of them. And then bring out your dead, so we can go and just keep on beating that dead horse again. Haha, pun fun.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just take them. We'll dump them in Illinois. No one will ever find out.
I'm beginning to suspect that Social Security numbers aren't really, for accruing benefits from the government or something, that they're just the number in line you are to die in 2016. That's my suspicion, personally.
There's a whole bunch of nervous people getting out their paperwork. Holy shit, what was it again?
What the fuck?
Everybody's going to be reworking the numbers like it's some kind of shitty puzzle. There's like, that's it. I figured it out. Poor fucking bastards. But it's, I mean, overall, it's been a shitty year just because of the deaths alone. And I think that's, I mean, between like, all the shit that had to do with like the whole presidential race and then tons of people dying, man, it was like the entire country was getting the shit kicked out of it like nonstop. Even
well, I wouldn't think of those two instances as being exclusive in any way. I think a bunch of people fucking died because they took the presidential race seriously. To me, I'm just glad that I didn't get to hear about certain people kicking the bucket, but now I'm just wondering how many people won and lost money from the betting pools of all the people who died. Because at this point in juncture, if 2016 is going to start like that, hey, famous person X, Y, and Z kicked the bucket, now all of a sudden you're going to be going to office parties where over in the corner everybody's exchanging cash and some people are throwing their hands up and other ones are throwing fists because so-and-so died and so-and-so didn't.
That's true. Where the fuck is Dirty Harry when you need him?
But I mean, hey, it's the 2nd of January. Nobody's died yet. So hey, are you doing better?
No, I'm sure plenty of people died. Yeah, have you been to Istanbul? Oh wait, this is a video game program. Never mind. I'm sorry. we'll go ahead and move over to how was the holiday, because we got to pick things up a little bit. I want to say that over the holiday, Christmas Eve in particular, was great for me. There was very little traffic because everybody fucking died. So. I want to say that. Absolutely. Alpha Omegason, you were very adamant about this. How was your holiday? Was it a big one?
No, it was, well, Christmas Eve was. Christmas Day was just kind of boring.
I don't know what hold on, Alpha. I don't know what you were doing there, if that's like a rubber band or what, but it looked like you were, no, dude, it looked like you were playing with your nipples, actually.
Oh yeah, kind of. I might as well. Like, how were the holidays for you?
Things are looking up.
They, like, for the most part, I did everything on Christmas Eve. Christmas Day was just kind of relaxed, exchanging gifts, all that boring shit. I mainly was just playing video games. Like that's because that's something I haven't been able to do nearly as much as I wanted to. But then holiday season came in and was just like, hey, you've got days to do jack shit. I was like, I'm gonna catch up on some shit. So
no, man, almost the exact same thing I did. Apart from the odd family gathering or whatever, it was pretty much. Because I knocked out. I was really inspired, and I knocked out a bunch of rants like all together. And then it was like at the end of the month, I was like, "Hey, wait a minute! It's the holidays. I have video games to play." And so I just sat around and played video games for days, and I hadn't been able to do that in a long ass time.
That's one of the things that's more ironic. And for anybody who's watching this and is a much younger viewer, eventually you will understand this: is that the older that you get, the less time you have for your games. And we talk about this shit all the time, but we accrue a backlog that we mean to get to and then never get to because more stuff comes out, and then we're catching up on things from the past that we just found out about, and then some of the new games become old games because we haven't touched them, and then we finally get to unwrap those bitches, play like 1/4 of it, and then the new game that we were waiting for finally comes out, so that gets all of our attention. Yeah, adulthood.
And this is how awesome games like the Saboteur or the Last Guardian or whatever the fuck, they come out and nobody talks about them right after because it's just boom, something else comes out, and you have to devote all your attention to that, and nobody fucking talks.
Dude, that's one of the things we were talking about beforehand, is that there's plenty of games that come out, and they're really, really good games. And this isn't something new. This has been happening since games were games.
Yeah.
But because there's so many releases, like I was looking through the release list of just games for 2016, and there's fucking hundreds. And it's just for a single year across all platforms. And I'm looking at them just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I just got around to playing through Uncharted 4, and I beat that shit in 2 days. You know, there's people who will say, oh, that's kind of old. You're just playing it now. One, it's not fucking old, but that's how people will treat things. As soon as like a week or two goes by, oh shit, it's old.
Yeah.
Anything that I haven't played, when I first get to experience it, it's new. I don't give a fuck when it was released.
Kind of comes back to, honestly, a problem the video game industry has had since the very beginning. And we're probably, I'm noticing we're starting to turn the corner on this a little bit. I think we talked about this in a previous podcast, but this sense that the video game industry has no history. That we're there in the moment, and everything that came out before doesn't deserve to be like cataloged or preserved.
Okay. It is true, but we can apply it to movies and music, because I see this same exact mindset very, very often with people that if you aren't watching something as soon as the bandwagon is hot, then there was no reason to bother. Like, people want to just be a part of something rather than be into it for what it is.
Yeah, which leads to jumping on some really shitty bandwagons too. You know, remember all the fucking people who were like, man, Resident Evil 6, I can't, or Resident Evil 5, or whatever, you know, and it's like, Jesus Christ. And then 5 minutes later, they're like, well, that was shit. But hey, at least they get to be part of something for 5 minutes.
Dude, I see like the complete opposite spectrums of the bandwagons. There's like the hype bandwagons, and then there's just a hate bandwagon. So people to hate it just for the sake of hating it, like, well, do you have a reason? Well, and their honest to goodness argument would have to be, well, somebody else hated it, and that what they said seemed to make sense. So I just started hating it.
No, perfect example of this. Perfect fucking example of this, and it actually relates to the topic we were just talking about, David Bowie, and the death of David Bowie. No, because David Bowie made it. He collaborated on a game in the late '90s called Omicron: The Nomad Soul, and in my opinion, is one of the best adventure games ever made. Now, after David Bowie died, to commemorate his passing, Square Enix, who I think owns the rights to the old Eidos shit, released it for free on their service or whatever. So a bunch of people who had never played Omicron: The Nomad Soul got to play it. And the game back in the day, it wasn't obscure or anything. It was on Dreamcast. It was on whatever. It got a console release, actually. And they were talking about porting it to the PlayStation. But after that, it was like, whoa, this game that we've never played is fucking incredible. I can't believe this, you know, it's open world years before open world games were being made. It's cyberpunk. It's got it mixes fighting games with first-person shooters, with forensic kind of point-and-click elements and so forth. It's really interesting, and it has multiple story paths and multiple endings. Way ahead of its time, this game. And people were just creaming all over themselves. Look at this magnificent game that David Bowie was in. And then, two unfunny Canadian cunts decide to do a playthrough of it and bash it for the duration. And because these guys are popular on YouTube, suddenly Omicron: The Nomad Soul is the biggest festering shit pile in the history of festering shit piles. And now you can't say that you like Omicron: The Nomad Soul at all. It was the perfect distillation of herd mentality I've ever seen in my fucking life. They want to be a part of the great big sob fest for David Bowie 1 minute, and then once it's time to take the piss out of it, it's like, fuck that, I'll jump on that bandwagon.
Well, that is one of the most grating things for me in general, because it's ruined tons of experiences for me and my love for things. And while I shouldn't ever allow like outside third-party experiences and people and anything to ever like bother me.
Yeah.
It irks you to a degree that you're just like, why the fuck do you all act this way? And it's such a common thing. I've had motherfuckers just tell me like they outright hate something, and I was just like, which part did you hate? And they like, well, the minute that you quit stuttering, maybe you could tell me, or you could just see that someone else said it, and you were like, oh yeah, they said it. I hate it too. No, you don't. You don't hate anything. Shut up.
Yeah.
And that's so. Who the fuck were the two Canucks who were hating on it?
Those would be the two best friends. I forget what their names are. Two best friends play. Those guys.
Okay, so now, regardless of everybody's opinion on FF15, I've actually experienced this same exact thing. And yes, the game is going to be very easy to shit on for all parties who are currently in this live stream. But with Final Fantasy 15, I was playing through it, and I was discussing it, and I had a couple of people tell me, they're like, huh, that game sucks so bad, they're emo faggots, and nobody fucking, like, this game's really stupid. All you do is push a car. And I said, did you just watch that Conan O'Brien video? They're like, well, the game's just stupid. You're a fanboy. It's like, I just asked a question. That was all. I was just wondering, did you just watch that video? They're like, well, no. It's like, well, tell me which part of them are emos and all you do is push a car. Because all he played through was the intro of the game, which is like, and they didn't even show you the actual intro. Because in the actual intro, you are Noctis when he looks just like John Wick. Literally, like badass looking John Wick in his suit, and you're fighting Odin, who looks like Lucifer sitting on a fucking throne of fire. That's the actual start of the game. After that shit, then it goes into the beginning of it, which is just their car's broken down and they're just pushing it over to a fucking gas station. And if that's the worst goddamn thing in the entire world to you, Jesus fucking Christ, how have you assholes suffered through so many fucking Assassin's Creed games and Call of Duty games and all the other fucking bullshit out there that you fucking eat up and you think that's the second coming of fucking Christ?
Yeah.
Idiots.
I haven't even, in the interest of full disclosure, I haven't played Final Fantasy 15 yet. I'm planning on reviewing it, but I haven't even touched it yet. But if pushing a fucking car in an opening sequence is a problem, what about all these fucking, every game now does a slow walk sequence, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Mass Effect 3, where Shepard is walking through an amorphous woods in his brain. He's having a dream, and you can only walk. You can't run at all. The game forces you to walk. Every game has that now.
Are we going to throw a game as legendary as Half-Life under the bus because the entire intro sequence is just taking you through a really fucking slowly showcasing of the entire environment that you're in while you're just waiting to go and crack some heads?
Yeah, I agree. It's hacky. It's stupid. I called it that in a game that I love, by the way, Deus Ex Human Revolution. But does the stupid slow walk sequence at the beginning of Deus Ex Human Revolution make it a festering piece of shit? No! That game's goddamn magnificent, and everyone should play it.
Well, dude, there's, like, I've had people getting frustrated with me about this, but I've had tons of folks ask me, should I play Final Fantasy 15 Alpha? I'm like, just go play it for yourself and be your own judge. Don't ask others to make up your mind for you. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Just go experience it. If you want to play it, drop the fucking cash to go and find out. That's really about it. There's so many fucking games out there. I've had people tell me that, well, I heard. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to point out the irony, and you keep saying heard over and over again, but you've never experienced firsthand. You've never watched, you've never listened, you've never played, but you have opinions. Yep. That's kind of odd. And again, Omicron, when you were talking about, I never got to experience it on PC. Dreamcast is where I experienced the game at. And IDOS at the time was cranking out so many fucking games during that point in juncture. They had, let's see, so they had the Fighting Force games, the Tomb Raider games, the Soul Reaver, Blood Omen games. They had Omicron. They had so many fucking titles coming out around that time.
I think they had ported Final Fantasy VII at that time, Deus Ex, Thief, all those fucking games, all at once. All of it. Fucking Revenant. You could go on and on and on. IDOS had a huge library in the late 90s, early 2000s.
But that's it's kind of shitty to think that it just takes like one person's opinion and then everybody formed their opinion based off of that, but none of them ever like I come across the same exact thing where people tell me something, for example, on PlayStation 2, there's two horror games, Haunting Ground and Rule of Rose. Both of them are extremely hard to find. So I have lots of people out there who are always bragging, like they'll pick it up and they're showing it off and shit, and they're just like, this is like one of the greatest games ever, blah 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 blah, and they're doing that because it's a really rare game. And I'm like, so tell me about it, because I played through both games, I've beaten both games, and I've had them since they came out. So I was just curious to hear what they thought. Yeah, nothing. They could only tell me the value of the game and that it was rare. Cool.
Congratulations on being a glorified goddamn Kelly Blue Book, bitch.
Yeah, it's
Jesus
that
fucking
kind of shit always gets me, because it's another grouping of people that they're collectors more than gamers. They collect video games, but it's an interactive experience. Like that's the kind of entertainment that you're getting.
Returning us to the topic at hand in a way, because it's the classic case of video games don't have a history, but they do have a collector's market. And there is a distinct difference. These fucking people who are buying all these games just to have them, they're not historians. They're not cataloging them. They're not treasuring them. Fuck, they're not even playing them. They're just sitting there because they know that it's an investment. It's like the comic industry in the mid-90s. It's just
it makes a great backdrop for your YouTube videos.
It sure does.
But it's the equivalent of having an art museum and covering up every piece in there.
Yeah,
because you can only truly appreciate it whenever you get to sit there in front of it and kind of experience it. And you get to look at every single brushstroke. You get to look at every single little chisel from somebody's sculpture. You get to understand it in a way that most people wouldn't be able to. And with a video game, you've got to sit down and play it. And it blends in so many different things from art that you have to sit down, controller in hand, and try it out, but people don't. They want to sit it on a shelf and never touch it. And I have people will sit there and be like, yeah, but that's what you have. I'm like, yeah, and I can pick up every single fucking game and tell you something about it from firsthand experiences, or just because I have a knowledge of it and I haven't gotten around to it just yet. But when most are just like, well, this is becoming hard to find, so that's pretty cool. It's worth 25. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up. I don't fucking care.
Here, like, the difference is the intent. You Alpha intend to play every goddamn one of those games, or have it for that reason, or you did play it and beat the goddamn thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and when you brought the comic collectors market, I was young and thought this shit was stupid when it was happening, where people were just like, oh, look what I have. And I'm like, why don't you read them? Like they'll put them inside of like cases and shit, and they never want to open them, and they don't know anything about the story. I'm like, what the fuck's the use of it? It's a comic. Yeah. Like somebody sat down and wrote the story. Somebody sat down and drew it. Somebody sat down and colored it, and you're not going to experience that. Fucking hell, man.
Well, don't forget, it was a collector's edition. If they get it, they're going to be able to retire from a comic book in so many years.
Yeah, dude, that's why I want this fucking entire market bubble to burst. I want all this shit to be worth $1 a piece. That means I can go out and buy more, and I can enjoy this shit because I actually appreciate it. When somebody thinks, I'm going to get all this, and then I'm going to retire, you are a stupid, fucking, flaming, retarded asshole. Because you have no idea what is worth shit. Oil, gold, land, shut the fuck up. Oh, sorry, bullets. That's all that's worth a single fucking thing.
Children.
Huh?
Children. Or actually, they may be the reverse of that.
No, I guarantee petroleum is far more valuable than children.
That's true. But just the idea that there's folks out there that are just getting into this just so that they can collect and then try to go and cash in later, to me is asinine. And before anybody out there, well, who are you to go and judge people who are doing that? It's their right to. Yeah, and it's my right to be able to fucking call them out for being a fucking asshole. And the only reason that you're defensive of it is because I just described you. And that's really about it. Don't be upset at me for your insecurity about you being a fucking idiot. That's not my problem. That's yours. You have to live with it. I'm just calling it like I see it.
Yeah. You gotta, you gotta shoot them in the head. They're like zombies or grunge singers. So continue. Continuing on, ladies and gentlemen.
But it's. I like that we got to touch base on like 4 different things all within one go.
And we kept it pretty close to the topic at hand at the end. I don't know how we did that.
I don't know. And we also offended many avenues of art. Very impressive. Very impressive.
We're magicians.
We are, in fact. What was
Art
next?
had it coming.
Oh wait, hold
dear.
up. We both talked about how we spent our holiday. Mr. Chaos, you didn't get to
Well, I
share.
did. I told you. I said the traffic was great because everyone died.
Well, yeah, that's traffic, but I mean, how was your actual holiday?
Well, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. We actually got some. You're not going to believe this here in Southern California. We got some precipitation.
It was same here, actually, dude.
There were church groups
rain the whole time.
There were church groups yelling at the sky, so you knew it was legitimate. And we got a lot of snow here in Southern California. The San Bernardino Mountains looked absolutely majestic. I didn't have to drive, so I got to be completely loaded all day Christmas Eve. It was great. And I got to see the mountains, and it was fantastic. And for those of you that follow me on the Instagram, and Alpha Omegason, he saw this. My nephew got his first ever game machine. He got himself a Nintendo 2DS, and he and I played Mario Kart together for the very first time. I was so proud. I just hope he doesn't become a great big fat fuck. You know, that's
now hold on. Now, did you actually do as you said that you were going to, and did you actually crush his spirit?
Yeah, I sandbagged for him, and then I beat him once, and he began to cry, but I convinced him that it was a good thing that I won, because he almost won, and he'll do better on the next race. And he fucking bought it. And then I let him win the next race, and there we are.
Dude, you know what always gets me is anytime that I got to play anything with like my nephews, my niece, or my son at all, if there's ever a point in time that I stop giving a shit and I might like lose and they win, man, those motherfuckers think that they are king shit of Turd Mountain. And then I'm just like, oh, child, I'm going to have to knock you down some pegs. I was just like most like, was it like, I am absolutely fucking garbage in Super Smash Brothers. Fucking rubbish. Anybody could play me and just kick the fuck out of me. Most times I'm literally a button masher in that game.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't care. Like, I literally don't care. I go there for fan service, and that's really about it. And they'll beat the shit out of me like every single time. The worst part was my nephew the one time beat every single adult like numerous different times. He was also using Link, and we were just like, you're such a cheap fuck. Like, like you cheesy fucker. But it's amusing to see that happen. But yeah,
you ever have a situation where you're too good at a game and you can't lose to the kid because they're just so shit and they keep getting more and more frustrated, right? Like the game that happens to me on is I had a little cousin who loved Star Fox. And I am stupid good at Star Fox 64. But even if I wasn't, he would still be pretty shit. You know what I mean? And I couldn't lose to this kid. Like, I would do everything. I was like crashing into the ground. I'd be taking my own wings off, right? This kid would still lose. It's like, it's not my fault, kid.
I try to explain to them sometimes. I'm like, well, I am really good, but that means that you have to get better so you can be even better than me, because I'm the very best. Like no one ever was. Yeah, exactly. Just try to explain this to them. Just like you will get better, but they are the same children who will run into the room where like me and my friends will be, and then hand us the controllers and like beat this part. I'm like, when I was a kid, I never asked anybody to beat any fucking part of any game because all the adults in the house fucking sucked at all games.
That sounds
Vegas Stakes and Tetris because my mom was good at those. and that was fucking it.
We have a video game welfare state.
Like, but they come in to like beat this. I'm like, you were playing fucking Skylanders. This shit isn't hard. You were playing Lego games. These are easy. And sometimes we will boot up shit like God, what is it? Kid Chameleon on Sega Genesis. We booted that up and we just watched a sheer horror. just like wash over them. They're just like,
What the
no! Like they are getting
Ghosts and Goblins sometime.
Dude, it's oh my god, it is such a fun feeling. But then like there's times that like they'll get mad. I mean like legit mad where even I'm like, oh shit, like I want to back up. I'm like, this motherfucker's gonna start swinging. I don't want those little fists to come at me. Like Muhammad Ali's soul will just like be imbued inside of this child and he's just gonna fuck my day up. Now I don't need that. That's terrible. Goes real life Super Smash Brothers on me. Fuck all that noise. Oh, so Chaos. So he's got the 2DS. So he's enjoying it.
He's enjoying it. He didn't say a goddamn thing for the rest of the evening. Which I don't know about you. For those of you out there that have children, that's success in spades.
Yeah.
And then in true man fashion, I didn't know if I was going to share this on the program, but in true man fashion, I had to help build a fucking bicycle. So I was late everywhere for the rest of the fucking evening.
Yeah, that's the problem. The older you get around Christmas time, you turn into the guy who puts together everyone else's gifts.
Yeah. You know, my brother's like, hey, you want to come help me with something? I thought he wanted me to help him move a sofa.
No,
here comes this fucking bicycle in pieces. Like, oh, fuck.
Or it's it's the man of the new millennium. You wind up setting up everyone's new computer software or their new.
Oh Jesus! No. I made that the wife's problem years ago.
Dude, the worst shit about it was a lot of time like Chaos. You do the smart thing where you'll have devices completely charged. And you'll have batteries put in things so they immediately can open it up and start fucking about with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a smart thing to do. I had to do that once, but it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sewer set.
Nice.
But it was the new one. See, the old one was just like, it was basic bitch. I had it and I loved it and it's still fucking awesome, but it was basic bitch. It was only like so big. The new one, on the other hand, is like this fucking high off the ground and shit. And has just everything. And there's a reason why they charge out the ass for that. And putting that bitch together, and it took just a matter of seconds to watch it like get disassembled just from active play. And I just watched it. And it was like, I could see my hopes and dreams just like a moth to a flame. I'm like, yep, that was all my work. Fuck. But if not, they can't play it. And then they're asking you like Christmas Day, please put this together. Like, fuck's sake. Like, so that's several hours. Fuck all that, man. Like, fuck all that. But it's I'm glad. So we all had good holidays.
It was actually quite decent.
Good.
At least I think so. I know it's not much for the Hate Bit podcast, but
where the fuck did you get a Triforce Hero shirt from?
Santa Claus brought this to me.
Ho ho ho. I mean, it is at least like festive colors. So
yeah, it is. I thought so. The game's fine. It's not the best Zelda game I ever played, but I thought the shirt was kind of cute.
I never played that one.
It requires 3 players, so I don't have any friends except for you guys, so it didn't work out.
There's a stream idea.
Yeah, with a fucking 3DS. Yeah, you find a way. There has not been.
They got the really nice capture cards out there. It's just that the capture cards individually are anywhere between $400 to $700. But hey,
you realize that's more than this podcast cost. Period.
Well, if anything, Nintendo should just be like, you know what? Let's go and make one. They could, if they made like an actual capture card for the 3DS, like a Nintendo branded one, dude, they'd make so much fucking cash off of it, like so goddamn much.
I imagine they would, but then you know it's going to be a piracy device.
I mean, look, pirates have been able to turn individual carts, actual games, into piracy devices. They just need to accept that this shit exists and just patch it as they go along.
Absolutely.
And then pay people $20,000 to tell them where all the exploits are. So there's that.
Just money well spent, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so we got a brand new year upon us, and we decided, well, Alpha Omegazin decided, because he decides these things apparently, that we had to talk about best games of 2016 because it's something that we kind of danced around late last year. And so lay it on me. Alpha Omegazin, you had one, didn't you? I mean, you gave me this list of all the games that came out.
I've got two that I can at least rattle off the top of my head. One, both of which I've already mentioned, but I poured so many hours into both, and it's weird because they're like major release games, and a lot of times it's always the niche games for me. And this time it wasn't. It was AAA games that everybody and their fucking mother knew about. But I enjoyed both for completely separate reasons, and it was Uncharted 4 and Final Fantasy 15. Uncharted 4, I put in 19 hours on the game, close to 20. And Final Fantasy 15, before I jumped onto Uncharted, I think I was hovering around 86 hours on the game. And there's still so much I have to do. Both my best friends have clocked in like over 110, 120 hours apiece.
God damn.
They are playing the fuck out of these, and it's just the worlds are big. There's lots of side missions, new game plus, and they've got content that's coming out later on for it. And
it took them long enough. It should have a lot of fucking content. Jesus.
Oh yeah, dude. Not only did it take so fucking long for it to come out, but they have so much other shit that's related to it. They got the little beat 'em up game for it, which is really good, and I wish I had it because I've only gotten to play it at my friend's house. But that one I liked a whole bunch, and that fills in a whole bunch of story about King Regis and shit, and I was just like, that's cool. And then you watch the movie,
King Regis,
the full CG movie, and that one is a prequel to all the shit that happens in the game. Then you got the anime, which is Brotherhood, which you can just watch that shit on YouTube, and that ties into all of it and gives you more backstory. They've got entire expansions that are coming out, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, there is so much to this. But if you end up touching upon all of it, it's one huge ass experience, and it's a weird type of marketing that I don't see all that often, where they're like, we're going to touch upon all sorts of different avenues and experiences and all sorts of shit that's just one big story. And it's weird to think that this started off as being related to Final Fantasy 13, and thankfully it's not a shit show like Final Fantasy 13 was. So I was happy. And Uncharted 4 was, it was a game about pirates, and pirates are fucking badass. And I was like, that's pretty cool. But the aesthetic in the game was a lot darker, and many of the sections, like entire chapters, were like a full-fledged horror game. And that made me like it even more because it was really different from what you had seen in the previous games. I'm actually a big fan of them. I like them a lot. Now, maybe it's because I grew up with Indiana Jones and shit, and went to Tomb Raider, and then went to this. And they did a really good job of making the world much bigger. Like, you can get inside of a car and just drive the fuck around all over the place, and you are actually adventuring. You're going and climbing up entire mountains that you had seen that were like so fucking far away. Now you're actually driving to them and getting there. And along the way, there's all sorts of shit to experience and lots of people to shoot. And I played through the game on hard mode because I always play through on normal. I said, fuck, I'm going to do it in hard mode. I motherfucked that game so many goddamn times. There's just, dude, there's sections that don't even make sense. Like, there's an elevator sequence, but you're not in the elevator. You were hanging off of the elevator or on top of it while you were ascending up this huge ass mountain. And there's just people coming out with fucking machine guns, and they're all just tracing right onto your fucking noggin, wanting to go and splatter brains everywhere. And it's just chaos everywhere. But it was one of, I would say, arguably one of the best games I've played this generation. Easily the best out of the franchise, like at all. I didn't think that I'd play one better than 2. Like, 2 to me was the shit. I was like, really good game. And this one eclipsed it in every single conceivable way. I just hope that they don't stop. I know that they have a lot on their plate, but it was kind of cool that they also had a throwback to the original Crash Bandicoot. Like, you actually play Crash Bandicoot 1, a little sequence of it, within Uncharted 4. And I wonder how the fuck they got away with doing that, just because Activision owns rights to it, but Naughty Dog owns the original versions to it, and it's just kind of a mind fuck. But really cool ass game. Those were my two, like, top 2. I could talk for hours about them, but there's 2 bored gentlemen that want to go and say shut the fuck up. So, gentlemen, go ahead.
Gentlemen, where?
You guys are gentlemen.
Well, I guess I'll do it, because, Razorfish is dark and brooding, and that takes time to bubble to the surface. The big ones over here, you know, on the popular machines. I actually have a few. One that the big one for me this year was Star Fox Zero, because I'm that old. It's that important, and it was a game that really made the Wii U shine and show that there was a reason for the machine to exist. Nobody bought it except for me, and well, Razorfish got it on sale. But the point, I'm the sucker that bought it day one. But the point is, Star Fox Zero was the game that made me glad I bought the machine. Fantastic all the way around. True Star Fox game, great soundtrack. Mrs. Yell Chaos.
What about Star Fox Guard?
Star Fox Guard. I didn't get to dig into Star Fox Guard too much.
Me either. I didn't really get to. Honestly, the game is still in the original shrink wrap.
You know, same here. I really want to. I played the demo on the eShop when they gave it away for a brief period, and it's it's neat. It's neat.
I never. Neat is like the most underhanded insult.
No. If I was to be underhanded, I'd say other things. But my point of view on it is, I mean, if tower defense games, that's the thing. It is the mechanics of it are a tower defense game, and you have to have a certain kind of patience to really be able to dissect that kind of game. Because if not, you will. For the average game player, strategy games like that, tower defense strategy, will make you want to stab motherfuckers over here, over there, and I have to build up my nerve to play a game like that. So that one's still sitting on the shelf.
Interesting thing for them to include, because in a lot of ways it reminded me of exactly what we got with Nintendo Land. And they were just like, yeah, we're going to just throw this to fuck in there as like an extra. And I was like, that's fucking cool as hell. So I was kind of curious, like, what your take on it was.
Like I said, I've played little bits of it, and I like it. But again, it's another one of those things that once you get into the longer levels, you want to stab motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Unless you've really got the patience for tower defense games. So that's why it's in my experience, it's the kind that I know would just try my patience, so I haven't put too much effort into it. Over Mrs. Yell Chaos, actually, I asked her right before the program, and she was voting for Super Mario Maker for Nintendo 3DS. She got that one this Christmas, and she's almost done with it. She got it for Christmas and has not put it down, so that's really cool. And then one that was very special to me, very special, came to iOS on the iPad, which was Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic. Dropped Christmas week, I believe, and I got to dig into that one. That one was a lot of fun. So if you're into that sort of game, I just happen to say,
man, it has been ages since I'd thought about any of those, because I started off with Theme Park.
Mm-hmm. Did you?
Dude, theme Park and Theme Hospital, I like those games a lot, and I was apparently an abused child because I played them on PS1 and on PC.
Boy.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
do your thumbs still work?
You know what? It's kind of surprising how well it worked with a fucking D-pad. We didn't even have analog for PlayStation at that point, so it was pre-analog. But playing those and seeing Roller Coaster Tycoon, which just like it built upon everything so much more. I remember wanting to play it a lot because
I'm struggling to think how that works. D-pad with roller. I mean, placing terrain and placing like different. How do you even do that? To me, that sounds rougher than a 70s Snatch.
Dude,
it's nasty.
It is. You're doing everything so fucking carefully, but there was a lot of times like you'll be going and building something. You're like, okay, I'm going to build a walkway, and then you build like off on the wrong section, but you already paid for that part of it, so you have to debate whether or not you want to go and delete it, which also costs more money, and try to get that shit back, or you just go, fuck it. you roll with the fuck up and try to make it work as best as you can because you're kind of broke. But dude, Roller Coaster Tycoon on a like games like that on a touch screen, perfect, like absolutely perfect.
I've seen them fuck it up a time or two, but this time I thought Atari, which is not Atari, but I don't even know who owns Atari at this point. I want to say it's Infogrames is now Atari or whatever. But no, they did a damn fine, decent job. I'm surprised. I was skeptical about playing it without a mouse, but now that goddamn Windows 10 doesn't want to play my physical copy of Roller Coaster Tycoon, this is what I have to deal with. So, I mean, a hard fucking life I have, right?
Those kind of games are so underrated, though. Like, you know how many times, like, I'll see you can reduce the most hard of hardcore gamers to just a fucking preteen schoolgirl just by handing them a copy of, like, the original Sims or something, and they'll fucking lose themselves in it because those games are just fun. Those kind of like resource management type games. Just fuck around with SimCity for a while. You the most hardcore like no, I only play fucking the hardcore fighting game, whatever the fuck. I don't keep up with those kind of games enough.
We're not
the darkest of the Dark Souls motherfuckers. You can reduce them to a gibbering schoolgirl. They're just like, oh my goodness, is he gonna have a date this week?
Those kind of games, kind of like, it's going to be a weird comparison, but they're kind of like a Minecraft type experience where you can get dropped in and whatever you end up doing with it is up to you.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of experiences that you can have, but it just depends on and that says a lot about the games, but especially, if you get all the fucking expansions, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, I know had several expansions for it, and The Sims is
The Sims is expansion central.
Dude, I've gone to thrift stores and I've seen like on the glass cases or on their media shelves whenever they have anything that isn't just sports games because it's been picked through, is piles of like entire Sims expansions just going across the entire thing, kind of like those. You would get you'd have those old people that would get the Thesaurus volumes. And it's like 1 million of them and shit, and they just have them up on a shelf. Same thing, just different type of medium. But god damn, that is a lot. So you got Super Mario Maker, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and Star Fox.
You betcha.
Not bad.
I thought
anything else you're gonna throw in?
No, I think I'm gonna leave that. I figure a handheld, a console game, and a mobile game. I figured that was enough.
Not bad.
Yeah, for me, my game of the year, hands down, was Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. It was pretty fucking. It was interesting because I expected more of Human Revolution, and I think that's where most people went astray with that game, because there are people who didn't care for Mankind Divided this as much as Human Revolution. I actually may have enjoyed Mankind Divided a little more because it was interesting. They tried something different, and I didn't like it at first. I didn't like that they decided to go smaller in terms of surface area with the game, but they went way the fuck deeper. Like, I've never seen. It kind of was the extension of the Warren Spector. I talked about this in my review of he had this concept for a 1-block role-playing game, right? Where it wasn't that large in terms of surface area, or even he talked about like maybe just an apartment building. Just build an apartment building within a game and then just simulate everything. Everything is deep. Everything has a story. Every clock works and reads the right time. You walk in and you see the dinner table and there's articles and you can read the entire newspaper and shit like that. It's kind of an extension of that. Not quite to that extent, but it was just shocking. You could just open any window in the fucking city and just plop into the apartment, and every single one was open, and there was always something to do, and almost every single time it was attached to some sort of side quest. The side quests intersected with other side quests, which intersected with the main plot, which all had different variegated plot lines that you could follow through. It was just mind-blowing. I couldn't believe the complexity of the game. It still absolutely blows my mind. And in fact, it's so complex that it's kind of daunting to go back and play. I put hundreds of hours into the game, and now it's kind of hard to go back and play it because you're almost like, shit, there's so much to do.
That's one of the only it's such a weird catch-22 with big massive games, is that there's so much to do. And in a lot of ways, you just don't have enough time to do all of that stuff. And you want to, like deep down inside, you want to, but you will go from a game that may or may not be able to be completed within like 60 to 80 hours to something that to do everything you're looking at like 250 hours.
Yeah.
And the idea of spending that.
It's one of those games too, which is ironic because one of the earliest complaints that I saw, I think it was on IGN, we could leave it to them, said it was too short, which I was like, what the fuck, motherfucker? Like, I'm on my second playthrough. I don't even, and the first playthrough was hundreds of hours. Like, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what to tell you, pal.
Dude, I ran into that with a couple people who had said the same thing about Final Fantasy 15. They were like, it's short. And I said, how fast did you beat it? Yeah. And they were like, oh, I beat it in like 40 hours. Well, 40 hours is not fucking short, but
nowadays, no, it's not.
But I was like, what were you doing exactly? Because I'm more than double your time right now. And well, I didn't do, and they have an open world to them that they didn't experience or bother with. Okay, it's an open world. If you have open world role-playing games and you're not doing anything in the open world and you just stick with the main shit and you rush through it, you chose to experience the game in a linear fashion and rush through it. The fucking people at IGN who were probably tasked with reviewing it and didn't want to be bothered with spending the extra 20, 30, 40 hours of experiencing everything else because they had a fucking deadline, then decide, oh yeah, it's a lot shorter than it is. No, cunt, it's not. Yeah. You made it a short experience. That's and you know what? That should actually say something, because a true role-playing game will let you experience it however the fuck you want. Yeah. And you chose to only do so much. So you didn't get to see these characters. You didn't get to see this part of this city. You didn't get to go on this adventure. You didn't get to go and fight these people because you chose not to. That's not the game's fault. It's there. It's your fault.
And it's pretty crazy too, because the game, one of my biggest gripes about certain RPGs is, they'll give you the choices to make and so forth, but they don't really give you consequences for choosing one or the other. Or most importantly, and this is the one that always pisses me off, if you decide not to make a choice, and just put the choice off, the world doesn't move. You know what I mean? They don't wind up like, oh, you missed the boat, motherfucker. No, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I see that shit happen in The Witcher and shit all the time, where it's like, well, I got to make this choice, but fuck it, I'll just go do 90 different side quests, and these people just keep cool until I'm done, and I've made my decision. Deus Ex Mankind Divided doesn't work that way at all. The shit is timed. And they did a little bit of that in Human Revolution, where if you dicked around in the opening sequence, you had to go on a mission, right? There was a hostage situation. And they tell you about the hostage situation, but they let you dick around in your office for a while and dick around in your office building at Seraph for a while. And if you take too long, if you just fuck around, when you show up, the hostages are all fucking dead. And you have to go clear the place. That was in Human Revolution. In Mankind Divided, it's they do that with tons of quests. Most of the main plotline quests have something like that in them, where if you just fuck around and you're just doing the side quests, then you're going to get, there are definitely times when there's not a burning mission that you have to do at that particular time. And so that's your side quest time. But that is an interesting, just a bit of a twist of realism that I don't see in a lot of games. And that's one of the reasons I loved Mankind Divided so much. It was just a badass game. And like I said, I think I might like it more even than Human Revolution personally.
With a design choice like that, there's going to come there's going to be a lot of love-hate for it. Love because it's obviously a much more realistic experience, because, motherfuckers aren't just going to be sitting around like this
yeah,
it's been 4 days. And, the real world will actually keep on moving. And the problem is, when you have a world like you described, as big as it is, with as much to do in it, you'll want to go around and do all that shit. But then there's consequences for that, which that's something that they've been wanting to go and do with role-playing games and make them as big, as detailed as they are right now. It's just overwhelming. It's so fucking overwhelming, but it's also just cool as fuck, because where else are you experiencing that? You're not.
Absolutely.
So would you add any others to your list than that?
I would have to think about it. There are definitely some honorable mentions. I enjoyed the fuck out of Technomancer. I thought that was a badass game, and it came out around the same time, I think, even. And that was a really cool, like, middle market game, a little bit janky, especially on the PC version, which I didn't expect. I expected it would be the other way around. Normally the PC version functions a little better for middle market type shit like that. But actually, no, the PC version, there's missing textures and all kinds of fuckiness. But the console version works just fine. If you got a PS4, if you got an Xbox One, I say go for it. It's a badass game. But I enjoyed the shit out of that. There was a couple others, but I can't think of them offhand. Mankind Divided just blew my mind. It was, again, Deus Ex Human Revolution was the best game I had played probably in 10 years. At that point, it blew my fucking mind. And Mankind Divided did the same fucking thing just 5 years later.
I mean, this year I thought was good because, I mean, besides the two games that I'd toss out there, I mean, one more I'd throw on the list, and I won't go too deep into it, but is Doom.
Oh, fuck. Why didn't I think of that? God damn. Dude, I enjoyed the shit out of Doom.
Doom was exactly what I wanted. And I can't say that a lot of times, but they gave me exactly what I wanted. And it's not often that not only do you get exactly what you want out of something that is an important IP, but they just fucking nail it. Yeah. Like in every way possible. And there was so much riding on the game in a lot of ways because it had been so long. When you have releases that are that much time in between, it's important for them to really get it. And, you know, I'll defend Doom 3 until I'm spinning into the fucking grave. But, you know, it's a very different kind of game.
Doom 3 doesn't need your defense. It was incredibly successful. I remember that game lighting the world on fire. People bought it left and right.
Dude, it's one of those things, like a lot of a Doom diehard purist will hate on the game because it's not like Doom 1 and 2. And I'm like, well, that is definitely true, but it's also not a big far cry from the games. It's more of a more methodical game. It's slower pace. It's more about the environment. It's more about you being fucking scared. Like, you actually had to count the amount of bullets that you had left inside of a magazine before you went right through a doorway, whereas in most Doom games, it's obliterate everything. And truthfully, I prefer to obliterate everything. And the new Doom gave me that. They're just like, hey, do you want to play like an old Doom game just like with a modern twist? Yeah, there you go.
That's what and it was what I loved the most about Doom was how many modern gaming conventions it just lifted the fucking finger at and was just like, no, fuck you. We're not going to do that. Fuck you. We're Doom. We're going to do what we're going to do. There were no fucking iron sights in the game. The fucking game was just like, no, fuck that. You're going to shoot from the hip the entire time because that makes it more like an action game. You're fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're just, right? Which is awesome.
You're Doom Guy. Doom Guy doesn't give a fuck about anything at all. They're just like, there's so many things that we consider standard now that, you know, don't apply to the old school shooter mentality. Like when I got to play Shadow Warrior, and I fucking love Shadow Warrior.
Yes.
And part 2 is coming out next year. Day one fucking purchase for me. Because man, was that new one the shit. And it was... Shadow Warrior gave me exactly what I wanted out of Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
And it's ironic to think that that's technically where all that shit came from. But when I see the new Doom and I see something like Shadow Warrior, I just sit there and I hope that that's what I can expect from whatever next Duke Nukem that they get. They see that this shit worked.
Yeah.
Audiences received this. The reception was very positive and overwhelmingly positive, as a matter of fact. Just do that. And you know what? It'll give you, for developers, it's an easy way for them to just be like, you know what? Fuck you. And Doom, like you said, did exactly that. And that made me embrace it like 10 times more.
Yeah, just like, it made shitloads of money. It proved that you can do that and make shitloads of money. It proved that you don't have to adhere to these obnoxious conventions. And it's interesting because that's kind of what 2016 has been to a large degree. Think about it. The biggest shooters this year because Infinite Warfare didn't do so well, actually. Compared to previous games, I mean, it's still selling gangbusters because it's goddamn Call of Duty. But compared to previous years, it actually kind of ate shit. But the biggest shooters, putting aside Call of Duty, were Doom, which was fucking huge, and Battlefield 1, a World War I game, the war that you could never make a shooter about. Your two biggest shooters were a complete finger in the face of everything the first-person shooter genre has stood for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And that is fucking awesome to see. They both sold insanely well.
The traditional tropes of the past, like, let's just take entire last generation.
Yeah.
The entire shooter genre for last generation had put people off from first-person shooters in general.
Yeah.
Because they had changed it so that everything was just modern warfare on repeat.
Yeah.
And now...
Which was fine. We liked Modern Warfare the first time. I think everyone's probably got a pretty good story about playing Call of Duty 4 at some point at a friend's house or something. It was kind of the golden eye of last generation, a little bit. But you fucking hit the repeat button on that enough goddamn times, you can fuck up an orgasm, all right? It's just... it's too much.
When you have two completely separate teams who are essentially cranking out the same exact fucking game just over and over, and I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about, well, there is this difference, and what about the zombie? Shut the fuck up. You already know it's the same fucking game. I don't care about the little tiny little marginal details that are going to be different about it, or a fucking mode that should have just been its own goddamn game to begin with, but still... The entire genre, in a lot of ways, people were just put off by it, except for just like, oh, dude, bro, yeah. Those people love the living fuck out of it.
Is that them blowing their wad on each other's face?
Yeah, every single time. Be like, oh, yeah, grab my stick, bro. Yeah.
Face, neck, and chest.
But it was... For me, all the shooters that I'd liked, like last generation, I kept on sitting there telling everybody about like things like Singularity and Blood Dragon. I'm like, these games should be getting your attention, and you aren't paying attention to them because you're playing shit that's stupid. And now we're starting to see where the shooter genre is becoming diverse again on a AAA stage. Yeah. And that is necessary because that's how you keep an entire genre from becoming stagnant. And then other publishers will look at what's selling well, and they won't have to come down with the fucking ban hammer on developers and be like, you cannot go and do all that shit because that's what's selling and that's what the fuck we want. Where the money
and these games, what's interesting too, you're right, because if you look at like the backstage stories behind the two games, Battlefield 1 and Doom, they both had a bunch of fucking infighting and no, you're not going to make that fucking game. It won't sell. And like Doom, they had to build it again because they originally, the first version of Doom 4, if you've heard about it, it was Call of Doom. That was what it was. They fucking tried to make Call of Duty in space with the fucking Doom license, and someone at Bethesda, whoever the fuck they are, I will blow them on command, was like, no, fuck that. That's not Doom. We're not going to do it. And it's tired. And we're going to do something different. Battlefield 1, man, they've been pitching a World War I game with the Battlefield license since the early 2000s. And EA has just been like, no, fuck off every single time. Finally, after, I think it was probably because of the last Battlefield game just completely shitting the bed, they were like, you know what do we have to lose? Let's roll the fucking dice. We tried that hardline shit. Why not try this? So they finally did, and thank God they did, because at least there's some kind of variegation in the industry now.
It is so fucking necessary, because I hated the idea that a genre that I grew up with and that I love a whole lot is just the same exact fucking thing with a different name from a bunch of different companies that are hoping that they can get some of that audience instead of just making their own game and then developing their own audience. They just want somebody else's because they made lots of money, and that's what a publisher goes and tells a developer, so the developer has to live in somebody else's fucking shadow. And that's what an entire genre did? No, fuck all that. I know that point could be argued to a large degree when first-person shooters were still coming out, because everybody looked at Doom and then just wanted to be Doom. Yeah. But even back then, those motherfuckers were experimenting all the time. The 90s was all about video game experimentation because the technology was just fucking exploding at the time. And there's just this huge difference between what the fuck we were doing on stupid Commodore PCs and old school consoles, and then going forward to disk-based shit and then higher end PCs at the time, which was like what, Pentium 2s or whatever. And you know, now we're seeing that shit again, and that makes me happy because, again, I'm just happy that I can see, like, this is that fucking shot of adrenaline that it needed desperately for it to be able to survive. So it's fucking good. It's so goddamn good. But yeah, Doom is. I could throw everything at Doom, like game of the year if I wanted. It literally fucking fantastic. Chaos, you like Doom, right? Eh?
Yeah, Doom is very violent.
It is.
and that's why it's game of the year.
So is our world.
It's true.
Yeah, I know. But damn Bill Cosby and all that stuff. I know.
I wonder if he'll die this year.
Well, would that please you?
I don't care either way. Like, if he's alive or dead, just
yeah. Hey, whatever pisses off feminists works for me. You know.
I know, right?
You know, yeah. That's no.
Speaking of a bunch of whining puss bags, it's time to take some questions from the audience because we haven't done that in a while, and we'll see how long they stick around after that fine introduction. So, dear puss bags, if you have a question, comment, or anything of any kind, please drop us a line, hatebitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on the Facebook, on the Twitter. You can get all of us easily. We live in the 21st century. It's possible now. But we got some questions. We got some commentary here on the Hate Bit Podcast Network of Hate group on Facebook. For those of you that still do that faggoty Facebook shit, you can find us there because, as I said, you know, that's just the way things go. Question number one coming to us from a longtime listener, Ricardo Nevis. And Ricardo says, do you see a future trend of remakes making up for a lack of originality in the gaming industry? I think we've already seen a lot of that. His examples being the Final Fantasy VII remake and the remake of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Well, we've got plenty of those. I think the trend is here. I don't see that.
We had remakes back in the 90s. The truth of
we had remakes in the late 80s, actually.
The industry, because technology advances so alarmingly fast, and there's lots of games that their shelf life, you know, it came to an end for many people, but those titles are still very important. Well, giving them like a modern day makeover makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and it's not the same thing with like the movie industry because you're not outright replacing actors and actresses and writers and directors and shit. You still got the essence of it. That's one of the nicer things about it is the creation of a video game versus those is completely different, and that's why they survive so much better. When they did the Resident Evil remake in the 2000s for GameCube, and that was necessary because the first Resident Evil was fucking important, and it always will be. Even if you hate the series, it's an important video game just because of what it had done. Well, the new version of it was just a million times better in virtually every single conceivable way. Yeah. It was necessary.
Yeah. And some games just don't find their audience right off the bat. A really good example, although Resident Evil did. I mean, that game sold insanely well. That is arguably even more than Final Fantasy VII, or before Final Fantasy VII. That was the game that put PlayStation on the map. Like, it was before that, it was kind of like, oh, hey, look, it's another fucking 3DO, or so it's a disc-based system. What a novelty. No, once Resident Evil dropped, it was like, oh, I see. So we can kind of do something with this console. And then, of course, Final Fantasy VII blew it through the roof. But sometimes games just don't find their audience, and you have to remake them in a way. Like, a good example is, as a big stealth nerd, Hitman. The first Hitman, good luck finding anyone who's played that game at all. But a fuck of a lot of them have played Hitman Contracts, which was released later, and that's basically just a remake of the first game with better controls with like updated controls, and essentially they reintroduced the audience that they had get. Because what happened basically, first game didn't sell for shit. Second game, Hitman 2, Silent Assassin, I think is what it's called, I think it's the best-selling game in the series. It sold an insane number of copies. I think it was like 12 million, some really high number of copies. And then, of course, they were like, well, shit, we got this audience. Let's give them the first game because it was really good and they didn't fucking play it. so they just remade the first game and called it Hitman Contracts, essentially, and threw in a few new missions. Sometimes you just have to do that.
Look, if I run any major company that's been around long enough that I can say that I have a franchise that has been there for like 4, even 5 console generations, and that franchise is still going, yeah, I'm going to want to go back and revisit old shit because it makes sense. And you'll have the same people bitch about a remake and also bitch that it's lazy to keep on porting an old game. Well, what the fuck do you want then? Yeah. Well, I want new games. Well, you're still getting the new games too, but this old shit still matters. So make up your fucking mind.
I think we should make a line of demarcation here. We don't want lazy ass fucking remakes where it's just, let's just copy paste the fucking code. When honestly, you're just making up for the fact that you don't have any goddamn backwards compatibility on your console. You know what I mean? That kind of shit pisses me off where it's just like, we'll just sell them the same game again. You know what I mean? You can practically hear someone rubbing their hands together while they were making that decision.
Whenever they, one of the much better ones, and it just, I mean, it hit so much at home for me, was DuckTales Remastered.
Oh,
from the ground up remake of one of the best Nintendo games ever. Yeah, you can sit there and fucking try to argue with me about that. No, it's DuckTales.
And you know, they were able to get the license for DuckTales. You just wish they could do Darkwing Duck too, because that game was so good.
When I was playing through the game, the minute that I finished, I just kept on thinking to myself, I was like, oh my god, please just do like Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Please do Darkwing Duck. Please do like DuckTales 2 and Chip 'n Dale 2, because those are really fucking obscure. And it's even better because now they've got a new DuckTales show coming out.
Yeah.
But this one, they were like, yeah, we got the original actors, all the ones who are alive, working on this again. And it's 2D. It's 2D hand-drawn art that looked amazing. Granted, there's a lot of 3D shit in there as well, but the game just looked good. It was a lot of fun. It controlled well, and it was way forward. Forward. Every time I see their name pop up on anything, like these motherfuckers have done a lot of good shit. So I'm always excited to go and see that.
They've also done a lot of mediocre shit.
They have, but their highlights are well more than deserving, because I can rattle off tons of developers I know that have done complete shit, but have also made some of the best stuff.
Capcom has been pretty, I mean, looking at the record overall, you would have to say Capcom has been pretty on the money with the remakes.
Yeah.
Because they did DuckTales, which was superb. They did fucking, they did, of course, the remake, and then they remade it, which is ridiculous, but they did. And they did, in my opinion, the best fighting game of last generation, which was the port of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, which is absolutely incredible. They they not only hand drew all the sprites from Super Turbo, which everyone knows and loves from, Super Turbo back in the day. They got Udon, the guys who do the comics, to hand redraw every single character. They didn't just... They actually got, like, comic book artists to do it themselves. They redrew everything in the fucking game. It looks incredible. It plays incredible. That is, like, the standard tournament version of the game now. And just another classic example of fucking Capcom just nailing a goddamn HD remake out of the park. You wish more people would approach it like that, because so much of it is just, Last of Us HD edition. We upscaled everything. Well, here you go. Give us free money.
There's 2 that I can think of off the top of my head right now, both of which, one is coming out and then one has already been made, but both come from the camp of Sega. and that's one was Castle of Illusion.
Yeah.
And Castle of Illusion, I think, is one of the best games on the Genesis. It is just an extraordinarily good platforming game. It looks good as fuck. It sounds good as fuck. And it's one of the best Disney games out there. I mean, Capcom nailed tons of good shit with it, but Sega gets overlooked for their offerings for Disney games, and they did a phenomenal job. This remake, they re-envisioned everything, and they added in a lot of new stuff. Some of it, some fans felt was a bit unnecessary, but anything that's additional and more and adds to it, I'm fine with. Because you got to keep in mind that you were trying to capture a new audience, and you're also trying to give like an old audience like something tantalizing. Go and check this out. This is some shit you'd never seen. So you're trying to rope them back in, and it made a lot of sense. But they got that, and they're remaking the very first Yakuza game right now. I'm all the fuck over that shit because I've seen the engine that they're using for Yakuza 6 and Yakuza 0. And if you go back and even if you can find a fucking copy of the first game on PlayStation 2, good fucking luck, by the way. I mean, it's a great game, but it doesn't hold up all that well because this came at the ass end of the PlayStation 2 era. And the PlayStation 2, most things were in 480i. They look like shit. You try playing that on your fucking like brand new 55-inch 4K television, it's going to look like turds. It just does. Yeah. But it's still a good fucking game. You just got to get past some of that shit. Well, now they're putting all this visual polish on it and all the things that they've developed since then.
I don't complete aside, but I don't think PS2 games would look as bad if so many PS2 games to cover up the shitty graphics didn't use the patented PS2 blur filter. That fucking blur that's on all those goddamn games. All of them. Dude, they all look like you got Vaseline fucking smeared all over the goddamn camera. It's ridiculous. But anyway.
I'd seen that shit so many times that I thought the game was fucking up.
It's
like,
true.
Like you see it happening and you're just like, oh yeah, all right. And it's kind of a shame in a lot of ways because in many regards, because you know damn well PlayStation library is like several thousand, or PlayStation 2 library, several thousand games deep. Well, how many of them are really going to get the HD treatment, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to resort to the likes of emulation or hope to fuck, fingers crossed, balls crossed, and whatever the fuck else that you want to do, that they are going to have a company that gives a shit enough to do an HD version or a complete remake from the ground up. And it just doesn't happen all that often. But because think of how many games, like Fist, what you were talking about before, they didn't find their audience initially, but over the course of time, they have this cult following that just blew up. And this game is now like synonymous with that company, with that system, just with games in general. And it didn't experience that at the height of what it should have had as its popularity. Well, if you go and bring that game back out, all of a sudden it's doing very fucking well and might get people interested in that franchise, which will be fresh and new all over again.
It's why I hoped, as a big Thief fanboy, if Thief 4 had been good in an alternate universe where fucking Eidos Montreal hadn't completely shit the bed. It's why I had often suspected if it had been good, what they probably would have done is gone back and remastered the old games and put them out because they're such a cult series, right? Something like that where it finally hits big after a really long time, you would expect them to do that. And the new Deus Ex games have done well, rather. I would like to see them go back and remaster those, honestly, although the fans have kind of done that with mods anyways. But,
well, I mean, we've got and this one is kind of just like a love child to many people out there, but System Shock, this shit is getting remade.
Oh yeah, it is, and it looks good.
It looks really fucking good. But this is a series that just like old school diehard PC gaming fans were into, and then that was it.
Yeah.
That's all the people that knew about it. I mean, if you ask a lot of people out there who played it, they'll tell you nothing but good things about it because it was so way ahead of its time. And still, even now, it is way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Could it control better? Yeah. If I could take like modern day things and apply it to it, I could make certain aspects of the game much more approachable for a bigger audience while still retaining its core values of what made it special.
So that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's that kind of shit's really important. And now they've got God, what the fuck? Diablo 1 is being remade.
Yeah.
From the ground up, and they're using the Diablo 3 engine. That's fucking fine. I mean, I personally can still play the first one and enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. I don't know. Diablo 1's my favorite in the series personally. But yeah.
Dude, they're remaking it. It's not a matter of a sign of laziness. It's a matter of when they do it well. This is how you keep franchises alive, and this is how you keep a lot of like modern gamers interested in something that's older, but they won't touch because it's old. It doesn't look super fucking good like a lot of shit. And unfortunately, that is the mentality of a lot of people out there. Yeah. And it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. And I'd rather them just do it and have the couple people that are going to bitch about it and get that shit out there, because everybody else will appreciate it if it's done well. So yeah, we had a lot to say about that, Mr. Chaos.
And I know, that's very interesting.
Any games that you think were proper remakes that made the sensicles?
Yes, lots.
Well, calm down with that list. Damn it. We can't get a word in edgewise.
No, of course not. Absolutely. One that I thought, here's a question that I thought was interesting. This comes from, and I want to say this name the way I think it sounds, Mario Evange. And he says, and I think this is for you, Mr. Razor Fist, thoughts on Blade Runner 2049?
I already recorded that rant, actually.
Oh, do you want to keep it a secret then?
No, I already cut it. It's already out.
Is it out? Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
I put out a video about it. I don't see it as necessary. I do have a suspicion that it'll be good. I actually, believe it or not, I think it might be good. There's some good talent involved. There's a good director attached to it. Roger Deakins, probably the best cinematographer in the business, is shooting the movie. It's going to look gorgeous. And Ridley Scott is producing. And every time Ridley Scott and Roger Deakins get together, those are the four best eyes in the entire business. Those two pairs of eyes have essentially filmed the most beautiful movies you've ever seen. Assassination of Jesse James. You can go on and on, right? And so it's going to be drop dead gorgeous. I have no goddamn doubt. And I'm pretty sure it'll be a watchable film, but it ain't going to be goddamn necessary, because it's not necessary, because the first fucking movie said everything you need to know. And if the second movie comes out, all it can do is worst case scenario is shit all over all the things that we learned in the first film, make them unnecessary. And frankly, we just don't need to know certain things. That was part of the magic of Blade Runner. We don't need to know if Deckard is a replicant. The question is what's important. The answer is fucking retarded.
Right? So what you're essentially saying is we're staring down the barrel of another Tron film. It'll be nice to look at. However, if you want a story, you'd be better off looking at a box of Cracker Jack.
You're not wrong. You're actually not wrong. That's a pretty dead-on analogy.
I know. My mother made me sit through both of those fucking Tron movies, so I know all about that. See, I got this shit on fucking the internet and Tron at the same time. It's great. And here's one I want to get to. One more question before we move on into the rest of the program. Long-time listener, very long time guy. He's probably 100 years old by now. Mr. Brian Aguilar, and asked, our thoughts on an M-rated Zelda or Metroid, good idea or bad? That's always an interesting question. We get questions like that every once in a while on the program. And the concept of games being sold as M-rated, first and foremost, cuts off the audience. Because even though the ESRB, in my opinion, is essentially a domestic terrorist organization, that's what I feel about a lot of lobbying arms of companies. I don't think that their power is as strong as people would think. And it is true that ratings have become a marketing tool. Absolutely, which is strange. Goes to show that you're all fucking sheep. If you can be swayed by a fucking black and white logo in the corner of a piece of art. But it's an interesting idea. A Metroid in my opinion the ESRB, we have to pretend that the ESRB and the ESA, we have to pretend that there's any sort of semblance of uniformity amongst their ratings, because the line between teen and mature at this stage in the game is virtually invisible. And that's something that, you know, it really should be weighed out.
Yeah, it's kind of like an R rating in that, like, there's a lot of movies that have come out in recent years that shouldn't have had an R rating because there was nothing particularly offensive in them. But, you know, the companies that made them were lobbying for it because it's edgy. The kids will want to see it, right? So you want the R rating, or, you know, because PG-13 kind of has a connotation of being like teeny bopper, whatever the fuck. So I feel it's like the same way with fucking M ratings. Is you just want the M rating because I'm mature. You know what I mean? So that's honestly, I don't think it would be any different. And of the two, I would say this. I think it's only appropriate in the case of maybe Metroid, because I could see you going horror with that.
Absolutely.
I could see that happening and being a little bit more horror. You wouldn't have to show as much. I don't think it would have to be a terribly bloody M-rated game, but you could insinuate more.
No, I think if it was a little more graphic in terms of, because, you know, especially in Metroid, there's a lot of suggestion of decapitation and, you know, disfigurement and things like that. So it's really not that far off. In fact, if I'm not mistaken,
if they built upon Metroid Fusion, because that game was bordering on a lot of horror, like in that there was actual dead people, like these motherfuckers died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's tons of times where the monsters that you end up taking on, like as soon as you defeat them, like they're melting, the flesh is falling off bones and shit, like they're coming apart. And you see stuff like that. And if you look at some of the shit that's happening in the story, like it'd be sci-fi and horror go together very well. A mature rated Metroid game, I'd be all the fuck over that. A Zelda game wouldn't be impossible to do, but I feel like it would be so much more forced.
Yeah, it would feel a lot more forced because it's a fantasy. You don't have to get terribly dark. You could make a Zelda game more dark. I'll say that. You could,
but they didn't have the word fuck, you know, back then. You know, I mean, imagine what you could have done if Excalibur had the word fuck in it.
Well, I don't think it would be so much with the language.
Castlevania version of Legend of Zelda in a way, where you have darker castles and there's more suggestion of the occult or something, and, you know, whatever, and maybe Link is a spoken protagonist, more of an anime version of Legend of Zelda. I could see that happening, and I could even see it working. But I don't even think that would wind up being M-rated. That would probably be T for teen, because it's just a fantasy. At the end of the day, rating the people who rate these fucking things do take into account how realistic it is and how applicable it is to real life. That's why shooters tend to be M-rated with greater frequency than other genres.
I think
even though it is a device that seems by its design to, you know, ruin its own economy.
With Legend of Zelda, the only way I can see it being mature rated at all would honestly be through violence. And they would have to allow you to, like, during cutscenes, like they actually show like the tragedies of war. You know, they get to show, like, when you're Link and you're going up to any kind of fucking enemies, there could be a bunch of moblins and you're just going up and you're hacking their fucking limbs off. And at which point, again, it's not necessary. It would be cool. It would be kind of cool just because it's Legend of Zelda and you never saw some shit like that. But overall, it wouldn't really be needed. I've already got it. I could go and play like Metal Gear Up, like Rising and shit, and play that shit and just hack people into a bunch of pieces and giggle my ass off, or No More Heroes. Do I need it in Legend of Zelda?
Are you going to, even to keep it in the RPG genre, you could play The Witcher, and, you know, there's lots of gore in that. You can play, you know, any of these games. Skyrim has fucking decapitations and shit.
Well, there's a lot out there that does it. I think for Metroid, because right now that's like the bastard child of the Nintendo camp currently, and especially out of like their like holy trinity of franchises and shit, and it just seems to go further and further away from having that spot, and it's being replaced by the likes of like Smash Brothers and shit. But for Nintendo, I honestly think that if they did go the route of a mature rated Metroid game, I'd be all for it. It doesn't need to be like Dead Space levels of carnage and shit, but enough that it adds to the mood, it adds to the atmosphere, and it adds actual weight to what's happening right now around you. That would be the best way to do it, and it'd be more for artistic flair, I guess, rather than just carnage for the sake of carnage, which I'm all fine. I love gore in games, and I think it's great. When I see somebody get a hole just put through their fucking head, I'm like, awesome. But with Legend of Zelda, it'd be fucking silly. Metroid, I'm all for that shit all day. It'd be neat. Actually, I just want a new Metroid game.
Please.
Yeah, like I want a Metroid game, but a good Metroid game. I know I'm asking a lot right now, but I would like that. So
yeah, I just want a Metroid game good enough for Movie Bob to whine and bitch and complain about. That's what I want.
Oh yeah, that'd be.
Isn't that your goal for everything, though?
It is indeed.
See, and I appreciate your honesty on that. And that's all our questions. So if you have questions for us next week, please feel free to drop us a line at the 8-Bit Podcast Network of Hate on Facebook. Also at 8bitpodcast@gmail.com. We're going to wrap the program up in just a few minutes, but we have something I noticed over the holiday break while we were gone. Referring to the folks over at Sony. And they got this thing called the PlayStation Vita. You might have heard of it. I heard that like 60 or so people bought it. And it's this great thing. It's so great that people bought it with a cell phone connection. You know, it's a great thing. But the PlayStation Vita will not fucking die. By no means. It seems like there is this entire group, and there's people that I know that actually come here all the time, Sprites and Bites. Hey, how you doing? Who I think support this thing, if for no other reason than to spite Sony Incorporated.
Because you are gonna have a handheld console, young man. You're gonna sit in the corner and you are gonna do business.
I mean, it's amazing to me when if I'm not mistaken, the fine folks at Sony, the people that do the hand rubbing, I was pretty sure it was them. For these people that if I'm not mistaken, like it was like 2 years ago where they said, "Fuck the Vita. It was a bad idea. We're terribly sorry." They shot this thing through the neck, let it die in a fucking alley somewhere in Osaka, and it crawled out of an alley, did the Cactus Jack death crawl, and will not fucking go away. The PS Vita was thrown from the top of the cell through the table and got back and climbed up again, and here it is. Because there are just, if you follow cheapassgamer.com, which I'm a major advocate of cheapassgamer.com myself, there are just games upon games upon games. The PlayStation Vita, I can't get one fucking game for fucking the Wii U, but there are just games that will not stop for the PlayStation Vita. It's amazing. And it's Alpha Omega Sin. I'm gonna steal your joke. He told me there's some digital necromancy going on over there. I don't know what that is.
How can you resurrect something that was never born? How does that work? It's like a stillborn child.
Dude, it is there. It's the voodoo that third parties do. You see, it's third parties were just like, look, the 3DS needs some kind of competition. What if we have a portable Weeb machine? All right, let's make it happen. So the portable Weeb machine comes in a couple of different flavors. Right now, I think the colors are blue, orange, and black.
And then the oft-loved and much sought after Tifa Blow-Up Doll Edition.
I have 3, by the way. I keep breaking those things. I can't really help it.
So wait a minute, that's the USB port. Shit.
I wanted Type C, damn it. I wanted Type C. Because you got to twist your dick a certain way, because you're like, oh, it doesn't go in this way. There we go. Yes, these are the references we were making, folks.
I had wondered why every time Alpha Omega Sin whips out his dick, it's shaped like an S video port.
You know
How
what?
many times has he whipped it out in front of you?
You know what?
Anyway, moving on.
It depends on who's around. So the Vita won't die. It is a fucking weeb machine, but it is fucking amazing because the people that are putting games out on it, you're seeing the most obscure fucking RPGs.
I know
that. I mean, it is kind of like they went into the Wayback Machine and they were just like, okay, what all came out on PlayStation 1 and 2 unnecessarily in droves? All right, let's get all this shit. Come on. And they fucking go and they hop back inside of it, inside their fucking hot tub time machine, and they just drop all of it inside of the Vita. That's what's keeping this motherfucker alive. And it's weird because you're seeing some high-profile games get released on there, but Sony won't make a single fucking thing for it at all and hasn't for 2 years. So this is, and it's weird. Nintendo pretty much can make anything survive strictly and specifically and exclusively off of first party. Sony can't even kill things because third parties are keeping it alive exclusively, specifically, and just solely on their own.
Yeah, it's the Sony Terry Schiavo is what it is. It's fucking they just will not disconnect the feeding tube on this.
This reminds me of those people that just would not give up on those Sony Ericsson phones.
You're not wrong, dude.
No fucking games, no fucking third-party apps, but god damn it, those people had to have that fucking it looked like a box of nerds, it really did.
Or like how the fucking Zune was dead and buried and moldering, and GameStop was still like, you will buy a Zune. You will buy a Zune.
I will still go to bat forever and ever. Not as much as that one dude who got a tattoo of a fucking Zune, that fucking fat sloppy piece of shit. But the Zune HD was better than everything that started with the letter I at the time. The Zune HD was a fucking great device if you just wanted a music player. If you wanted everything else, then you needed to go somewhere else. But I do want to point out something that is fucked up, and it's going to make you question everything about life. But right now, the PlayStation Vita has 19.3% market share out of all things.
Wow.
Selling almost, it is hovering just below 15 million units sold worldwide to date.
That a lot of that has got to be in Japan. A lot of that.
Oh no, in Japan it does an impressive amount, but every so often the people that I find that have PlayStation Vitas, they go in hard. Like it's like they got the Vita and they're like, I'm going to be the person who makes up for everybody else. So they go in hard and fucking heavy. They're like, they do it as if they are a fucking investor in just this or some shit. They're just
they do it like they're stockpiling uranium.
Dude, it's fucking impressive. I mean, I've got a small collection of Vita games, and I play it, and I do enjoy the system. I would have bought it just for Persona 4 Golden because it is a portable weeb machine, just like I fucking said, and I don't give a fuck because I really like Persona 4 Golden. I can't help it. Great fucking game. But
I admire it very much for that reason.
Dude, it won't die. It's kind of, you could sit there and fucking plug bullet into this, and it's still, you're gonna find it in the next episode.
My point of view on the whole thing,
video game consoles.
My point of view on the whole thing is, there's always been so much talk, especially in the last few years, of mismanagement, studios going out of business for one reason or another, questionable decisions, struggles with publishers, any number of things. And there are droves of developers who are saying, you know what? Fuck this popularity shit. I want to fucking get my game in front of this small group of people who, you know, the ones that draw naked pictures of Samus Aran. I want to be in front of these fucking people, and I want to party with these fucking perverts. That's it. Whatever the case, these people might be good at making video games. Don't let them run your financial portfolio, because managing money is not their deal.
If there's a market out there, it's untapped potential. Fucking go for it. All you got to do is just take one fucking look onto, I don't know, just go onto somebody's DeviantArt page that has a fucking anime avatar picture, and you can look through their gallery of fucking fat-tacular porn that they have stowed away on there, both high quality and you did this in MS Paint with your eyes closed, but they were still fucking tugging their goddamn nugs to it, and there's a market for it. Make fucking games for it. Fuck it, why not? You know, if it sells 10,000, it's 10,000 more than you sold yesterday, so long as you aren't into the red whenever it comes to translating this bullshit. And even then, they just want subtitles, because that market, yeah, they don't want dub. They don't want it dubbed at all. They're like, no, it's not original. Can't have it. I hate my disgusting language. Ew. So bad.
Curse my round eyes.
The skin, it's impure. But unfortunately, all their fucking characters that they jack off are drawn as white chicks, but we can't get into that. But in general, the Vita, I don't know how long it'll keep going. I don't know how. It should have died several years ago. It hasn't. Part of me is happy because I like options being made available, but I'm just wondering who the fuck is buying it. Well, who?
From what I understand, it's people in Japan and people in Great Britain.
Well, in Japan, at least they get better releases for it, because there's like quite a few decent ass games that are coming out on the Vita in Japan that aren't going anywhere else. I'm like, why the fuck? Just why? And now I'm starting to see that PlayStation 4 is getting Vita exclusive games ported over in like super premium versions.
Yeah. And in Great Britain, I think they just go with Sony because there's no Sega to buy. So they're just like, oh, fuck. Fuck. God damn it. Oh, well. We'll just buy anything they put out. Shit.
Well, you know, why are they doing it? I imagine for the same reason when you have any sort of meltdown, it's best to isolate the core and then just hope it stops on its own.
I have to assume, I would love to sit in for one of their meetings whenever they get like the feedback for like, okay, so like somebody's like, wait a minute, the Vita, we still make those? And they're like, yeah. Oh, okay. Wait, what do you mean they sold? I don't know. Somebody's buying it. What do you mean? We killed it. We publicly went out there and fucking killed it. Who's buying? I don't know. Developers are still making games for it. Yeah, but we're not. No. How much more do we have to do, sir? I don't just make 5 more, sir. They sold. Make one that's orange for fun and take out all the features of it. They won't buy that, sir. It's sold. What the fuck do you mean? Just put weed games on it. Sir, you're Japanese. Shut the fuck up. Just fucking do it. Sir, it keeps selling. I'm fucking done, man. I'm done.
That's it. Fucking jack up the fucking memory cards. They'll never get over that.
Yeah, keep it. Don't lower the price of the memory cards. And never offer micro SD support. They have to buy ours. Sir, they're still buying them. I don't fucking know what's going on with my life.
God damn it, I'm gonna go home and whack off to offensive animated porn.
Replace it with the PlayStation Vita Go. That's the only way we can truly kill it. There we go. Yeah. Because PSP Go, that died a very quick death. Jesus fucking Christ. That poor
PS Vita Go coming holiday 2017. That's it for the first 8-Bit podcast of 2017. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I am the intrepid Yell Chaos. Joining me on this program, my man, Alpha Omega Sin.
There's definitely an ambulance that was going by, if you heard that. I have a lot of witnesses that I was here the entire time. Bye.
Hooray, Pennsylvania. And also on the other side of the country, my man, Mr. Razorfist.
God fucking speed, folks. Dozo yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Thank you very much. I want to remind you all that you should check us out right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that shit. And make sure that you enjoy Alpha Omega Sin striking a pose. Thank you very much. Love you. Fuck you. Happy New Year. Bye-bye. We'll see you next week.